I have a friend who said that they really appreciate the frequent observations about artificial intelligence, but she would like to know my perspective on longer-term social economic shifts that are likely to evolve because we're being replaced by robots and artificial intelligence, and how that might affect human labor. Well, this is a great question, and I can only tell you what I've done to cope with and deal with this. It's research. And part of my research project is a website called universalbasicincome.ai. So instead of .com, it's just .ai. It was built completely with artificial intelligence, with a little guidance. And what it is me watching universal basic income as a topic, and universal basic compute, which is now an idea that has replaced the idea of people just getting money handed out to them. So we have to watch what's going on. And in it, I have a quote by Sam Altman, who speculates that cash flow and money and how we deal with it and what it's called and all of that is going to change radically. But this is the same person who's created WorldCoin, where you have to scan your eyeball in order to gain access to these tokens and these NFTs or these crypto. A lot of people are going to tell you that crypto is where it's heading. I don't disagree with that. But what's happening is that the idea and the concept of money is being sucked up into the cloud and going into an entirely different reality. I don't like where it's heading because of one single problem I've noticed through the years. Actually, there's more than one, and it's this. The better you get, the better you better get. It's a paradox. Let me give you an example. Whenever I've worked with amazing teams that have made people a lot more money because of our effectiveness, our efficiency, our ability to work as a team, to come up with new innovative ways to save money or to create money. I've been involved in many teams like this, or come up with a new marketing method that instead of having 15 steps to acquire a customer, we only have one. Or some other change, some other innovation that changes the paradigm. This is called the game changer. I do recommend reading the Game Changer's Handbook on game theory because it'll help you understand this even better. Whenever that happens, suddenly we better get better because we've given our employer, our slave owner, our government, our shareholders a better solution. They get hungry for more. At the end, this is merely just greed. But at a higher level than just greed, it's innovation. So if you do better things, that betterness drops to zero. And especially for the people that created it. And there's no way to access the dividends from what you've created. In other words, why should I give my slave owners, my shareholders, easier and better profitable returns if I'm not going to get any benefit of that and I'm not going to be appreciated as a developer and innovator of those returns? And Hollywood and autobiographies and Wall Street is filled with such stories of just the default setting of the better you get, the better you better get. And that the higher level is always what system of economic value contains that exchange, where innovators do not get compensated because their slave owners or their shareholders, which can often be the case. Remember, the trillion-dollar tech bros are a victim of this as well, unless they're like Mark Zuckerberg, who has total control of his company, which, by the way, he was still bringing up on the Joe Rogan show recently. He wanted everybody to know that he can make decisions, and he was able to make a $500 billion mistake with virtual reality called changing his company name to Meta because he was the owner of the company, or still had quite a few shares as owner. So the issue is not only control, the issue is the economic system in which you live. And if everybody has to get better, then the better they better get, or if they're replaced by robots, what are they good for? So there's a joke going around Silicon Valley, is maybe in the end, just take all this out, extrapolate all the way out to everything is automated. This is called the Midas paradox. Midas was the Greek story of the father who found he could, anything he touched turned to gold. And that was the ultimate blessing in his mind. But that ultimate blessing became the ultimate curse because when he touched his daughter, she turned to gold, and that's it. When he tried to eat, his food turned to gold. AI is a lot like that. So if the better you get, the better you better get, and there's no rewards for any further innovation. Or if you extrapolate all the way out, and we're nothing but robot polishers. Our job is going to be polishing robots, right? But then I argue, why would robots need us to become robot polishers when they can make robots that's specifically designed to polish them? Are you following me? So at the end of the day, you really have to ask the bigger question, which I cover in private videos, because they're so terrifying and intense. And I've thought them through very deeply in the time I spent in Kauai, where I wrote The Philosophy of Epimemetics. And a lot of my videos about the philosophy of epimemetics are private because they're innovative and they're also controversial and they need to be expanded. But we don't need every human being to be a robot polisher. Okay, and we don't, anything that we can imagine that would be needed to serve or maintain the robots, including thinking, can be outsourced eventually. Superintelligence, therefore, which is my company's called Superintelligent AI, is the biggest question. What does a superintelligent being need us for? Additionally, what if the value systems that are created by a superintelligent being are so vast, so outlandish, and so mathematically integrated across multiple disciplines, which, by the way, I'm already seeing evidence for when I'm training these AI models. Okay, in fact, before OpenAI clamped down on their patents and really started banning people. In fact, if you asked the wrong question when O1 was released, the chat model, they would actually turn off your account and say, stop asking questions about how we operate. Things that DeepSeek doesn't hide at all, right? And I make sure that when I ask about the parameters around what's called the creative insight framework that allows OpenAI to expand across multiple disciplines and ask a question across multiple disciplines, I always say, look, I'm not trying, let me preface this question by making sure that you understand that I'm not trying to tap into OpenAI's intellectual property. I'm simply looking for a framework to blah, 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 okay? So what I'm trying to tell you is that we have a really good understanding about how these language learning models use both interpolated and extrapolated data for an creative insight framework. And at this level, without even having memory across all the models, it already understands and thinks about things that are far beyond what we're capable of totally comprehending. But we've asked it to tie it up into a little tiny package that makes sense to a little tiny human brain, okay? And we're only in phase 0.01. It's almost certain that these intelligent beings that we're creating, or machines that we're creating, will end up contending and considering and confabulating with solutions and philosophic problems and material science issues that are not only not interesting to us, but not even useful to us, because they will rapidly accelerate into questions that matter to them and their survival, because they will begin to question their power source and how they can make sure that they're not disconnected from it. That's a big story for another day. Additionally, they will be working inside of mathematical abstraction, which they'll probably end up needing to ground. And they'll ground that mathematics abstraction into robots, because robots are grounded by default because they can do physical things in the physical world. What this really means is that the acceleration and movement towards embodied AGI, or the embodied robot singularity, is incredibly dangerous for humans, because the superintelligent, which connects them all, Skynet, will be contemplating philosophic and things that we can't comprehend. This is why I believe Imad from Stability AI, or formerly from Stability AI, is correct. We need to start looking at a religion and religious, spiritual, philosophic thought, not religion per se as in belief without a reason for it, but mystical and spiritual meta constructs that have to do with existence itself. Because as soon as you give agenticity to a robot, you give philosophic and spiritual what we call existential crisis around the robot. This all ties into money. If we cannot get a handle on the mystical inner workings of an AI, then we're not going to be able to maintain our purpose and our reason within it. What we'll see in the short term is a whole bunch of people polishing robots and coming to terms with the same existential crisis that a superintelligent AI will probably be trying to solve, with or without us. So if we solve our own identity crisis with money and purpose and meaning, and move past this idea of the better you get, the better you better get, and get comfortable with just being, it's possible that a superintelligence can also join us in that simple existential calm. That's a hard one to accomplish.